Hi there, Lindsay here, the frugal crafter or artist, whatever you want to say. Today we are going to do a watercolor of a deer, and I thought it'd be really cute if we had kind of like a string of ornaments or lights or something from the antlers. I'm going to start off by sketching with a color erase pencil right on my watercolor paper, which is the Paul Rubens hot press watercolor paper. You can do this on scrap paper and then transfer your drawing if you prefer to do it that way. That is totally fine. I've got a Tuscan red pencil here. I'm going to start with the nose and just kind of get that basic, almost like a trapezoid type shape. Hopefully that's dark enough for you to see it. I'm going to make my lines darker. I just want to make sure that I've got them exactly the way that I want them first. I really want this to be almost like kind of cute storybook type illustration style picture. So that's what I'm going for here. It's not how I typically work, but I've been like, I don't know, I've had the urge to do some like really kind of cute Christmassy style illustrations. Oh, and if you are into Christmas, I do have a new class. It is Hand Painted Holiday, and it is Christmas cards and tags you can paint. It's beginner, all levels. You could do this with your children. It's just a wonderful wonderful course if you want to just kind of do some hand-painted holiday cards, Christmas cards, tags, that sort of thing. All right, so I've just kind of indicated the eyes. I know this kind of looks like an alien right now, but I just want to get these basic shapes in. Now I want the ears to be off to the side a little bit because I want to have room for the antlers. And it's funny because it's like I almost want the look of a baby deer, but it's got to have antlers, so like it wouldn't really have antlers as a baby, you know what I mean? So, and I'm going to compress them a little bit and just kind of put them in like that. Don't worry, I'll make it darker in a second. I'm just kind of going for, it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical, but I want it to be balanced. Get the little tiny little nubs there. What I like to do sometimes is actually flip my drawing over, and I've got a couple reference photos open on my computer from Unsplash of deer. And I thought about drawing this out on scrap paper first and then going from there, but then I was like, you know, I want to be free. I just want to have this kind of fun fun drawing, painting experience. I've been doing a lot of like prep for classes lately, and I've got some classes locally going on, and I just want to have fun. I want to be free. So now I'm going to just go in and I'm going to exaggerate the size of the eyes here. And I am going to throw in some eyelashes. Oh, by the way, I'm using a color erase pencil, which is by Prismacolor, and the reason I'm using this is that it's erasable, so I can erase any of my kind of mapping lines that I have there if I want to. So like if I'm like, I need to get rid of that, I can erase it. I honestly usually don't do too much erasing. A lot of times when I go in with paint, I'm going in pretty boldly, so I don't feel like I really need to do the erasing, but it's a nice option because what it does, even if you don't end up erasing, I love to see the colored lines underneath. Even if I don't end up erasing, the neat thing is I can draw with abandon because I'm not worried. I'm not like, oh, I'm going to mess this up. I got to be real careful. It's got to be real precious. I don't have to worry about that because I have that option. If I do royally mess it up, I can erase it. The thing I like about, sometimes somebody asked me during a live stream or the premiere I did last week when we did the ball jar with the berries in it, they asked me, why do you print out your photos? Why don't you just bring it up on your computer? And honestly, I usually do, but I needed my computer for something else. So I just printed it out on some cheap copy paper. Oh, it was because where I usually have my printer, my computer, I actually had the still life sitting there. So I wanted both the photo reference and the actual still life so that I could see the photo I was sharing with you guys at the same time. You know what? That doesn't look very symmetrical. I'm going to turn this around. So I usually do go by use my computer for my reference, and the reason I do that is because it allows me to zoom in on stuff. Like if I need to. I had the reference actually in front of me. The actual. Of course, this looks like a very feminine deer, and it's got antlers, so I think that would mean it's a male deer. May have to widen the face out a little bit. I'm not going to worry about it too much. It's just a fun little sketch here. We'll get our ears in a little bit darker. So yeah, I do like to use a computer. I have used my phone before, but for me, my old eyes, I need a bigger reference. But yeah, you could definitely use an iPad or a phone or whatever you're more comfortable with, I think. I do want to make sure this is, I'm making the antlers a little thicker because I think it's kind of cute. So that's one thing you do. You can also make eyes bigger. You can make eyes closer together if you're looking for a cute motif. Rounding edges, not having things angular will make things look kind of cute as well. I'm going right to the edge here. Now this is something that would be really fun if you like the way it turns out, to scan it and use it for your holiday cards. Or use it just for a note card or whatever you want to do. Or just, you know, do it in your sketchbook because it's fun because you like it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a great reason to create art because it's fun and you'll like it. Yeah. Okay, I think I got some of the feminineness away by widening out the face, of course, so now it's kind of heart-shaped and I brought it back again. Isn't it funny how just a line can really change? Now I want to put some nice big highlights. I'm not going to mask it. I don't really care for using masking fluid very much, so I just try to avoid it. That just looks sassy. Sassy Dia. Dia sassy. Okay. I will just quickly grab an eraser, and I'm just using this soft white eraser. I'm just going to gently grab a few of those guidelines. I really like the lines though, so you know what? I'm not going to take a bunch of that away. I'm going to just brush off the crumbs with this large watercolor brush. And I'm going to start by just splashing on some water. And I like to do this when I know I want a kind of easy breezy look. Because what happens here, when I have these splashes of water, and notice I haven't done the ornaments or lights, haven't exactly decided what I'm going to do for that. When I splash on water, what happens is when I'm painting, I will get kind of like just a natural looseness where the pigment will flow into some of these lines. So the paint I'm using is this very inexpensive set from the company Artsy. It's very much like the fan watercolor palette that I painted a lot with last summer, or the summer before last, I should say. The paint quality is pretty much identical, and I just swatched it out here just so I can have that to go by in front of me. And I'm going to be reviewing this soon, so I just wanted to get another painting done with it because I haven't used it in a while. I used it when I first got it, and then they sold out, and I didn't want to use it and have people frustrated with me because that happens. Sometimes if I'm using something and nobody can get the product, they get kind of upset. And I don't like people upset with me, so I'm like, yeah, I'll use that when it's back in stock. So I will have a link to that. I'm throwing in some yellow ochre, and of course, use what paint you have. You don't need to buy this paint to do this project. I'm going to use common colors. I'm not even going to refer to what they call the colors here because I'm just going to use what you would generally call it if you were, you know, using your set of watercolor paints. It's generally the same, but sometimes companies will give their paints weird names. I'm going to use a little burnt umber. I'm actually going to flick a little of that on. I'm going to put some in the ears. I'm using a number 30 brush. You don't have to use a brush this big. I just was flicking on some water with it. I find that like if I use big brushes, it helps me loosen up a bit, and just also helps me kind of cover some area a little quicker. Sometimes we tend to fuss and we tend to fret and worry about what's happening, and I don't want to worry. I want to have fun. I want to lighten up. I think I love paintings that look like they could go in a nursery. And it's funny because like when I used to scrapbook a lot, honestly, I kind of power scrapbook in like December because I make my mom and dad a scrapbook calendar. And so I just print out doubles. I go through and I've just taken everything off my phone yesterday to prepare for this. I go through all the photos I've taken throughout the year. I usually have to kind of beg my kids for some photos because they're at the age where I'm not taking many photos of them because they're like, oh, Mom, that's lame. But they take photos with their friends, so I have to like beg them for photos. And then I gather them all up and I print out doubles, so I have some for Mom's scrapbook, Mom and Dad's scrapbook, and then some for mine. And then I scrap it all at once. And they're not the most creative pages. Like I used to spend a lot of time on scrapbooking and I loved it. But they're more utilitarian pages. Let's look at that color. Oh, that's kind of pretty. That's kind of like an opera, but it doesn't look like opera on my palette because I've got like brown on my brush, but I like that. I think that's gonna work. Oh, something I wanted to mention about this set of watercolors that's different from the fan set is that you can pop out the pans and rearrange them, and that's what I did. So the arrangement that I have, I moved them all around and then swatched them out because I wanted them in a different orientation than how, ooh, I love that color, than how they came. So I like that. You couldn't do that with the fan sets. So I thought that was really cool. And actually, hopefully they don't jack the price up on these, but when I first saw paints like this, I was just kind of like looking around to see what was, sometimes I'll just search watercolor on Amazon and see what's new. Dangerous thing to do, by the way. And I had seen sets like this and they were like $40. And I was like, well, geez, that's cool. I'd like to try it, but I'm not spending $40 for what's probably like a student grade inexpensive paint that's, you know, gonna be same quality as other stuff I have. But then this set I saw and it was like under 20 and I was like, ooh, okay, let's give that a try. That'll be fun. You know what? I feel like I want something a little bit fun and light. Let's try this kind of teal color, like a cobalt teal kind of, except I'm sure this isn't. This has got to be like something super cheap, but that's the kind of the color I've got there. I like that. And I know this is really sloppy looking, but don't despair. I'm kind of avoiding the eyes just because I want to make sure that I don't paint the highlights. If you want to get in and around the eyes, go right ahead. Just try to keep those highlights unpainted. We will need to go darker on the eyes themselves. Deer have very dark eyes, but you want to make sure your highlights stay nice and clean. Okay, are there any other colors I really want to get in here? I think maybe a little bit of lavender, purple, or something like that. Let's go not with a lavender, but with more of a purple, just because that will be, it's all, you know, we can always lighten it up with some water. I did not pre-activate these paints. And I probably wouldn't, just because they fold up. You wouldn't want to like fold this up sopping wet. I think you would end up with some issues if you did that. You'd end up with some like of the paints kind of sticking together. Okay, now I'm going to try to figure out what I want to do with the antlers. I think I'm going to take the yellow ochre and that the opera pink color and just kind of give them just a real light wash. Oh, you know what? I think I kind of want to throw some salt in this, but I don't have any salt at my table. I'm going to run and grab some salt. I'll be right back. Okay, so when you're working with salt, you want to have a couple different things. You want to have a lot of water and a lot of pigment. I have a lot of water here, but I'm worried that I don't have quite enough pigment. So I'm going to switch to a smaller brush and really load in some color. Now, let's see. What colors have I used? I've used this color. This is a little bit more of an opaque color, so I want to use a little sparingly because it can make mud and it's probably not going to give me exactly what I want. I want to go into some of that purple. I want to get some of that on the nose. And I want to get that in other areas where I've already put it. Maybe I should have gone with the other purple, but I've already chose this one, so I'm just going to stick with it for now. I'm just going to tip. And it's okay if I get a little mud because I am because this is a deer. A deer is brown. It's naturally colored, naturally brown. I know this looks like a mess right now, but don't worry. All right, I'm going to sprinkle this with salt, especially down here where I want some interesting effects. All right, and now I'm going to grab a liner brush. You can do a liner or a spotter. Actually, let's do number 2 round. That's more of like a spotter. Because we have so many, like, we have such wet paint, I can pull out some little, like, just little furry bits. A little yellow ochre. Now, I just want to avoid the areas where I've done salt, just because you don't want to disturb the salt while it's doing its thing. That will give you that real pretty kind of starry texture. I've gone over the eyelashes. Those I can put back in with a paintbrush or pen. The big thing is to make sure that your highlights are not obscured. I'm leaving that little bit of white there for the bottom of the deer's mouth. And I'm going to just blot up this little puddle down here so it won't take a day to dry. And I am just going to hit any really big puddles. And we'll let this, oh, before we let it dry, I think I want to splash a little bit in the background. Oh, and let's get some, you know what, I didn't use any sap green, and that's such a lovely color. I think I would like to get some of that. That's more of like a background. All right, we're gonna let this dry, and when we come back, we're gonna add some details. After your picture has dried, you can brush the salt off. If you have a hard time getting the salt off, you can take like a credit card and just kind of scrape it gently with that. But it ought to brush off pretty well as long as your paint wasn't too thick. Sometimes if you have thick paint, it will stick it down there. Now, something I want to do is actually sketch on some of the Christmas lights, and generally I would do this with like a yellow pencil, something really light, but I'm going to do it with this same pencil I drew with originally, just to make it so you can see. What I'm going to do is actually just kind of draw some of the old-fashioned type of bulbs. I was going to do ornaments, but then I was like, oh, I don't feel like I have enough room, and it was just going to kind of like, I feel like just overwhelm the picture, so I'm going to just go for a few of the old-fashioned Christmas lights. And draw the bulbs first and then add the string, because that way you can, you know, you won't have to try to, it's a lot easier to get the string to match up the bulbs than to get the, than to put the string on first and then arrange the bulbs. So that way you can kind of balance it out, so you've got 6 or so, at least 5. And then it's going to look good if you have at least 5. If you have more than 5, you don't have to worry about odds and even numbers so much. Okay, I could even put another one over here. Maybe I'll do that, just another. I like it overlapping the antlers. Yeah, that's easy for you to see, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, when I put the strings in, I am going to try to think of like how they would connect to one another. Have this one kind of coming in front of the antler, maybe wrapping around. of like using it as a tool to draw your eye through the scene a little bit. There, I like the way that looks. And then any of the colors that you've already used would be really pretty on the lights. So I think I'll start with that magenta color. That was really pretty. I'm just going to fill that one in up there. Oh, and something that would be pretty would be to do a couple colors. So if I start off with the magenta, I'm just going to put my rag up there. There's actually a sponge I could blot my brush off on there. I used a yellow ochre, but that yellow ochre is plenty vibrant, so I think I'll just add a little yellow ochre to that magenta one. That's kind of pretty. Let's do a sap green one. That was really a really lovely color. And it's okay if you can see the antlers underneath, because bulbs generally are a little translucent. You know, because they're glass and light shines through them, so they've got to be somewhat translucent. And don't worry if you've got like a little bit of a messy halo around them, because chances are you would have, you know, a glow. I'm just going to dab in a little of that pretty turquoisey color. Oh, that's pretty. Now I'll do this next one with mostly the turquoise. I like using kind of like unusual holiday colors because I just think it looks kind of different and neat. Now I'm going to do a little bit of that purple that we used. Now I'll do mostly the purple in the next one. So we're kind of almost going like in a little bit of a rainbow. Add a little pink to that. I clean my brush in the dirty water bucket here, and then I pick up clean water in the fresh water. As long as I have two buckets, I find that they stay really nice and clean. So I'm going to go back to that opera. Ooh, that's bright. Then we'll do a smidgen of the yellow in there. Kind of makes it look a little bit more red when you have the yellow and the opera together. And then we've got, oh, let's do a yellow one. And then add the green to that. I think that'd be pretty. And I'm not pre-wetting the paper, but you'll notice that I have my paint real wet so that it is getting, so my paint's floating a little bit in there and keeping that nice fluid effect. We'll do the blue here, that turquoise, and we'll add a little sap green to that. All right, now for the string, I'm going to use sap green. I'm just going to switch to a smaller brush. You could probably do that, do the little parts where the bulbs screw in as well, but I think we probably ought to let the lights dry first before we do that. It's kind of, you can get some really fun motion with this because you've got those swoopy lines. And you can go in and clean up if you're not happy with your lines. If you're like, they just look too messy. If you don't like that, you'll be able to go in and clean that up as long as you haven't painted over it. As long as that's on top of like the antlers, you can go and clean that, as well as straight lines too. All right, I like that. So now what I'm going to do is start going in and adding some of the darker details to things. And I'm going to see how this purple will do with some of those darker details. It's not like a super dark color, so I'm not sure. I might need to go in with like something a little bit darker, but I'm going to try with this first because I've kind of got like a soft, almost nursery style palette going, and I kind of like it. It's a little unusual for Christmas, but I think that's why I kind of like it, because it just looks a little different. But you can always go darker. You know, I could go in with like a water-soluble pencil and add some darks, and then just kind of add some water to do my shading. And let's see how that would work for our eyes. That one I feel like I need to scooch over, so make it a little bit bigger on that side. Now I do have burnt umber, so I think I'll grab some burnt umber and see how that looks if I add that into the eye. Oh, I like that, because it does give it a little bit of a softer look. I can define the edge of the face a little bit like that. A lot of it with like loose watercolor painting is just trying to figure out how much detail to add, you know, because you don't want to lose the freshness, but you also want to have some definition in there so you can tell what you're trying to paint. Something that helps me is taking breaks. Like if I'm taking a break and letting something dry, I go and work on something completely different. And then when I come back, I can say, okay, I kind of like that, or I don't think I want to do more to that. I like the way it is already. And that really just kind of helps. Now I want to just give it a little bit of a kind of indication of the edge of the nose ridge there, and I want to do it over on this side as well. And these colors I'm using are very transparent, so I can just kind of glaze over what I have underneath, and it still is going to show, so I don't lose all that pretty color that I have going on there, the teals and the yellows and stuff. I think that's kind of nice. And just having that neutral, that burnt umber to kind of ground things is really, you know, you don't need a lot more than that. I love the kind of cowlick pattern of the fur up here, so I do want to get some of that, but I think I'm probably going to go in with a liner. I just want to get kind of the chunky bits with this number 4 around. Just to get that little bit of shading in there. I'm going to do the other eye the same way. I'm going to go in first with the purple and kind of outline and wet everything. Then I'll drip in the brown. That way my eyes will match one another. Adding the burnt umber in. I like to add it towards the top. Kind of think of where the pupil would be. And I mean, deer's eyes are so big and dark. They almost look like they're all brown. So I'm just kind of adding that and letting it spread out. And I'm going to define the edge of the face there. Oh, my tummy's growling. Huh? Hope you can't hear that. If you can, that's what it is. just throwing in some of the darks. And, you know, I'm not putting tons of detail. I just want to kind of get like the little bits of detail that I see. I see kind of a shadow over on this side from my reference photo. I will link up the 2 reference photos that I looked at when I was doing this. They're from Unsplash, so they're fine to use in your projects. There's just way more shadow on the side of the face, and I want to get that in there. And maybe just bring some of that shadow down the neck. Merge the loose, salty wash with that. And I want to do a little shadow under the chin as well to help bring the nose forward a little bit. This is one of those pictures that you could spend a lot of time just playing and fussing with. Adding layers. That's fine as long as you don't lose the freshness of it. Ooh, I feel like this ear needs to be a little bit bigger in comparison to the... There, I think that's a little bit better. I'm going to grab a little bit of the purple, maybe a little bit of the blue that we used. I want to add a little bit of a shadow in there. Sometimes it helps to pick up your paper. Okay, I think at this point I just want to let this dry a bit and take a break and come back and look at it and make sure that I'm not overdoing anything. So we'll come back in a little bit after everything's dried and we'll work from there. Okay, I filled in the little squares at the bottom of the bulbs with the same sap green I did the cord with, just to kind of get it done. It was pretty simple. You didn't really need to see that. And now I'm just going to take a little watered down burnt umber. And I'm going to add some shading to the antlers because they just are kind of wishy-washy. So I just want to get a little bit of a shading in there. I'm just going to go like with the grain of the antler and just kind of throw in just some kind of like lines basically with a brush just to give it a little bit, so you see how that looks different than that. It's just to get a little more texture. It's nothing really that significant, but if you've got like some paint going on the outside, then you can refine things a little bit, or if you've missed an area you can refine it a little bit, which is good. Probably should have worked that side to this side just so we don't end up putting my hand in anything, but I'm just going to give it a little bit of a layering. Now I had kind of thought take a break from this, and I was thinking about what does this need, and I really think it needs some contrast. So what I did was I grabbed some pens. I've got my fine liners here, and I've got this brush pen. They're all black waterproof pens, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to first go in with a brush pen because I like to go in and get my bold stuff done first, and I am going to I'm going to add in some of those details that I originally had drawn with a pencil. But I get the kind of a large pupil. Make the highlight a little bit smaller by going in and around. And I'm just going to give some eyelashes because I like the way that looks. I think it really brings definition into the eye. I'm going to do it on the other side, but I'm going to turn my work so that I don't drag my hand through there. And also I find that if I'm pulling a pen towards me, I get a much better look than if I'm trying to kind of like push it. Hopefully my head's not getting in the way there. I also like to taper the strokes as I go, so that I'll start like where I want the stroke thicker and then work thinner. Ooh, I might need to I'm gonna need to fix that highlight. That should be up higher in the eye, but I'll do that with a white pen. In fact, why don't I just kind of get rid of that, because you really don't see that much of a highlight in the reference photo, and I'll fix it with a white pen. Alright, now the nose is another area I want to define a little bit. And I'm just going really gently with this, because I'm only going to really be using that thick pen up in there, and then I'll switch to some thinner ones so I don't end up overdoing it. Let's see. I've got a variety of different size nibs from a 0.005 to a 0.08. The 08 being the biggest. I'm going to go in with a 3, that's kind of in the middle, so I know I can go up and down from that line. And I'm going to start doing some, just some outlining. I think because this is kind of a cute illustration, I do want that line work after all. I'll put some fur in the ears. And oftentimes, if I was going to do a pen and ink, I would start off that way, but I just wasn't sure what I was going to want to do. I like that though. I feel like it's giving me just enough definition, but I can still keep all the loose aspects that I like. I can keep it nice and sketchy if I want. I did want to get that effect of the kind of cowlick hair up here, because it almost makes a heart, so I like that. I think that'd be really cute. Not sure if much of that's showing up on camera on top of the watercolor, but I'm just doing like a hatching, parallel lines. Probably doesn't show up too much because I had a shadow under there. I'm gonna go with a smaller pen. Let's try an 02. It's just to start these down and just bring a little of that shading down the center of the nose, because there is some there. Do around the eyes a little bit, maybe. I really want to get that white back. I'll just use white paint pen here. Even though we're reserved them, sometimes the white paint pen is just a little bit more effective. We'll glisten to the nose with it too. And actually, I think I'll do a gel pen through the fur under the chin because I think that will look really cute. Let's see. This is a little small. I got this 3-pack of jelly rolls, and it's got a 05, 08, and 10. And I like the 10. I'm not crazy about the other ones. The other ones just seem a little too wimpy and thin. You have to go really slow with them. This is great for highlighting. This piece was really fun to do because it's like I didn't really have a huge plan before I started. I knew I wanted to do something where I had like an animal, and I wanted it to be Christmassy, and I was kind of thinking of a fox, and I was thinking of a deer, but I wasn't absolutely sure what I was going to do. Just doing a little highlight on the eyelashes there. So it's really fun to do pieces like this every once in a while. And I know it's just very cute, but there's nothing wrong with cute. I think the world could use a little more cute once in a while. If you have an area that just lightened up really well with the salt and you want to accentuate it, you can do that with your pen. I love it that you can see all of the colors in between your little pen strokes. It just gives it a really fun effect, I think. In most cases, you can go over the gel pen if you don't like it. If you're like, I wish I didn't do that, you can go over it with your watercolor and get, you know, get some color back in there, so it's not so bright. Sometimes I have to do that because I'm like, oh, I like that effect, but it's just way brighter than what I wanted. There, I like that. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the pen, and I think I want to outline the antlers. So what I'm going to do first here is I'm outlining around the antlers, but I'm skipping over the bulbs because I think I will also outline those, but I'll do them after. And this will help everything look a little cleaner. And then if you made any errors in your drawing and you're like, I wish I had that line over a little bit, you can adjust it. Always turn your paper so that you are working comfortably. Something I really enjoyed when I did the Inktober challenge was fine lining things. I found that, like, I never really used fine liners much, and I found that when I did that challenge, I used the fine liners a lot, and it was really, like, sometimes I would start off with like a marker sketch, and I'm just going to outline the fur here, and then, I don't know, there'd be something I was just not happy with it, not enough contrast, or just something, and then I'd grab the fine liners, and I'm like, oh, I really like that, and so that's something I decided to work into my regular artwork. I think I'm going to go with a thicker nib to do the wires and the bulbs though. So maybe a 5 or an 8. Let's see. Let's do a 5. It's not that much bigger, but it's a lot better to just go up a size on your pen than try to like double line it, because then it gets a little bit messy. And look, I'm just going to fix, if I see something that's like completely not symmetrical, I'll just go ahead and fix it when I'm fine lining it. And you can fill it in with paint after, or you can leave it. Because these are waterproof, you can do that. They're also alcohol marker proof, so if you do mixed media, they're a wonderful pen to have because you can use it with both. Honestly though, I mean, just getting that nice crisp line really fixes a lot of the issues. And if you don't put quite as much pressure, you can get a little bit thinner of a line. So if you saw a spot that you missed and you don't want to switch pens, you just go with a little bit of pressure and you can fix it. I actually think it looks cool in those areas where you can see a little bit of unpainted space, you know, where I have, you know, fixed a line or neatened it up. I think that looks kind of cool because it just looks a little bit more spontaneous. But that is totally a preference and a style, and if you don't like it, then obviously don't do it. You got to do what you like, what speaks to you, and what is the aesthetic you're going for. I am going to extend some of these eyelashes at the risk of making my deer look feminine. Still not that happy. You know what? I think it is because I see brown in that eye and I don't see brown in that eye. So here's another little trick. I'm going to take some brown paint pen because I love that brown that's in that eye and it's just too dark over there. So I'm probably going to have to, oops, I'm going to have to start this. Gonna have to start this pen. So let me get this pen going and I'll be right back. Alright, I got this pen started. I'm just going to tap it over there and see how close it is. It's not that close to the color that I have on the other eye, but I think it's going to be fine. I'm actually going to flip it upside down so I can, I have an easier time painting one side over the other. And then I can use some colored pencils or some watercolor over this just to make the color a little warmer, because it's not as nice as the watercolor. I do sometimes notice that on watercolor paper, these paint markers are kind of tough. They're a felt tip paint marker as opposed to the plastic tip ones, so they can be a little bit, they can drag a bit and almost act like they want to pill the paper. Sorry if my head got in the way there. So just something to kind of keep in mind. I'll have to touch that up a little bit with a colored pencil, I think, and I'm still not that happy with the way my reflections are. Oh, I think it looks a little cross-eyed. We're getting there. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to get something just right. Okay, so something else I thought would be really cute to finish this up with, maybe to put a little glow around the bulbs, and that could be done with watercolor paint, just watered down, or it could be done with colored pencil. I think I'll just do mine with colored pencil since I have them right here. I'm just going to do a little, just super, super light with the edge of my pencil, just kind of go, and this could be done with watercolor pencil or regular color pencil. Or pastel. And then if you want to use any of these colors elsewhere in your picture, feel free. You'd even add them into the bulbs if you want to richen up the color a little bit. And let's see, I'm just going to leave the colors out that I use so that they'll be handy if I decide I want them for something else. And I would go on a paler shade, so if you have like a pastel version of like purple, instead of going with a bright purple, go with a pastel shade because your paper might grab a little bit more pencil than you anticipated. And you just kind of want a soft look here. And then if you do want to go onto the bulb itself and add some color, you can use a firmer pressure. These are my Prismacolors. You can use whatever you like. Like this, I could use this on the nose if I wanted to, because I have purple there. This is where, you know, you really have to take your, oh, and the eyes, yeah. You can kind of take a little artistic license and liberty and just have fun because, you know, it's your artwork. That's nice lime green will be a nice color. It's not super saturated, so I can use this for the glow. And I would go right over the antlers because if it was glowing, it would glow everywhere. I just love the richness you get when you overlay colored pencil on watercolor. So pretty. I'm choosing the edge so I don't get too much color. And again, if you don't have pencils or you don't want to use pencils, go ahead and use your watercolors. There's nothing wrong with that. Use a pink, a nice bright pink. You could use a fluorescent pink. I don't think I'll use a fluorescent pink. I think that might be a bit much. We'll try just a regular pink first. And you can actually layer over watercolor. If you do watercolor on top, it's going to seep in between the bits of paper that have the pencil on it. So the pencil itself will resist the watercolor, but you'll get a neat little effect where the colors, where the paint seeps into the paper around the pencil. I'm going to give this guy a little blush. And a little bit of pink in the ears too, and just exaggerate that pink in the ears. It's a nice lively color. Okay, I think I'm going to take, I'll try my gel pen first and see if that's bold enough, but I want to put some highlights on whatchamacallit, what do you call these things? On the lights. And on the light cord. You don't have to worry too much about where the lights are hitting because depending on how these were tipped, they're going to catch a light differently. And plus these little lights are giving off light, so you can be a little bit liberal with your highlights. And I'll probably go in with a paint pen too for some brighter ones, but that just kind of gives you a little sparkle. Oops, I forgot to outline that one. How'd that happen? Oh my gosh, find the right size. Well, this is an 8. I used a 5, but I'll just use really light pressure. Missed that one somehow. And this is the 10 gel pen. And let me grab that white paint pen again. Nice big bold sparkles. All right. Oh yes, and I wanted to take a brown pencil, a nice warm brown, like a sienna or so. Just warm up those eyes over where I put the brown paint pen that really was almost like a gray brown. It wasn't a very rich brown color. Yeah, I like that. That looks pretty good. And I could do a little more purple in the eyes. And that pretty much does it. I kind of also, since I said it out loud and I've kind of had the idea percolating in my head a little bit, I want to add some watercolor to the color pencil too. I don't know, I just thought, you know, that sounds really nice actually. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the colors that I used that I used in the balls, very lightly though, because their light is not going to be as bright as the color of the glass, because it's really just like, you know, I like that. Kind of want to maybe put some brighter pink on that bulb itself. Yeah, I like that. I like this. Oh, let's do a little lime green though. I know I haven't used that before, but since I've added so many mixed media things in here, I'm just going to go for it. Oh, yeah, this is pretty. I hope you've enjoyed painting along with me today. I know it was very experimental, but I love projects like this because, you know, you just have fun, and maybe it will spark some ideas for you. If you don't want to paint this specific project, maybe you'll be like, oh, I like that idea, but I want to paint an owl. Maybe I'll paint an owl in that style. Maybe I'll paint I do have an owl in a very loose style that's similar to this on my channel. A live stream from like a year or two ago. If you want to check it out. Oops, I just reconstituted that watercolor. So you could try that. You might enjoy that. It's just fun to, you know, get some new ideas sometimes, and hopefully that gave you some new ideas today. Let's get a little bit of that purple. Mix it with a little bit of that pink because I did mix it when I painted the bulbs. Oh, I like it. I hope you did too. So there you have it, our finished Christmas deer. It was a lot of fun to paint. I'll probably use a pen to sign my name like right around there when it's all dry. Oh, it is pretty much dry right now. But there you go. If you want to paint some holiday greeting cards and you want some step-by-step instructions, patterns, and also some greeting tags that you can make, gift tags you can make as well, check out my course, Hand Painted Holiday. It is a mini course. It's less expensive and it's 50% off at the moment too for the launch special. So I'll link that down below so you can check it out. And thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. And until next time, happy crafting.